get going.
Welcome to this, our second episode of Apex Instance Tips. We may be testing fate by working on Friday the 13th, but let's see how this goes. Coming to you live every Friday at 12:05 EDT for 5 minutes. From Massachusetts, I'm Hayden Hudson.
And I'm Anton. And if you see me chuckling, it's because my wife's in the background dancing to the music. So it could be a fun event, especially if I turn my camera around. So Hayden, I know we commit to 5-minute tips, and we will make that happen today, I'm sure, but I have a few minutes to stick around afterwards. Will you?
I plan on it.
All right, so let's get that 5 minutes done quickly, and then we'll see if there are any questions.
Excellent. So it looks like my timer is underneath the InSum logo, but hopefully that's not a problem. Very good. Okay, so today's topic is user interface defaults, an underutilized tool. And what I thought I would kick us off with, what is something of a magic trick. Can I ask you, Anton, to observe what you choose to about this table and associated data that I've created for the purposes of this demo. So I've got a table called UID employees, and if you can call out a few details.
Well, so one thing that I'd say is, the table itself has some references to other data like department ID. So the table obviously has the data you need, but it doesn't necessarily give you the full picture. You don't know what department 4 is. And then the other thing is that some of the column names are not as descriptive as you might if you were actually building an application. Name, for example, which you highlighted, is really the person's full name. The cost center, again, is another one that maybe you'd want to actually have the name of the cost center. The active YN cries out to me to say, I would not show active YN, and I'd translate the Y to a yes, or probably translate it to whatever language was appropriate. I'd have a list of values with language translations, that kind of thing. And then even things like the created date, that I assume is a date column, but you might want to know that you're showing it without time associated because your NLS date preferences aren't set. You might decide to provide it in a different way, and certainly in an application, you wouldn't want to allow that to be an updatable column if you put it into a form or something like that. So those are my really quick observations. And seeing as we have now 3 minutes, I'm going to...
Well observed. So what trick might I have up my sleeve? So I'm going to create a form live. And
you better just take the defaults because we don't have time for anything else.
Yes, test form. I'll have it be a normal page. So I'm not making any interesting choices here. And certainly call me out if you see me doing anything tricky.
So this is going to be a pretty boring form. We just click through the wizard and tell the wizard, do what you always do.
That is right. And let's find my table.
I find that can be a little bit, you might have to just throw the underscore on there or something, see if it'll come. Sometimes that happens. Our time is clicking away. There it is. All right.
That held us in suspense. And
I saw a little click there at the very bottom that said use user interface defaults. I'm going to call that out as we talk. You didn't change that. Yeah.
And if we had the budget for it, this is where we would play the drum roll.
Yes, we are the low budget entry into the InSum cinematic universe. And I'm going to try and make sure I use that term InSum cinematic universe every time just because I like it.
I do like it myself. So, and let us see what this shows us. So what do you see, Anton?
Well, a lot of the things that we called out. The department looks like it's got a select list automatically associated with it. The name is changed to full name. I like our active is a switch automatically. And I see you called out, we've got some help associated with the columns. These are all things that would take me extra time. And I'm a real stickler for help on essentially everything. I want to see help everywhere. So
help is key.
So
I only have a minute. Let me reveal the magic behind this mechanism. So if I go up to SQL Workshop and under Utilities, I will find User Interface Defaults. And we can see under Table Dictionary, I've defined some defaults for my table UID employees. And just to pick a column at random, if I look at active_YN, which you called out for being sort of an unattractive name for a label, I have supplied a label, active. I've supplied some help text. I've defined that it should be displayed in forms, and in fact should be displayed as a switch. So I've gone through all of my columns like so, and if I were to, it means that whether I or anybody else is creating a form on this table, they will all be supplied with the same defaults that they can choose to override if they please.
And I'm going to call out that I think this was great. We've got 8 seconds to go, so I'm going to call this a win, but I'm going to ask people to give me an extra 30 seconds to point out the other tab, Attribute Dictionary.
So that is up on time, but I'll end the,
So with an extra 30 seconds, I'm going to click Attribute Dictionary and say, you can do the same thing unrelated to a table. For any column called updated, for example, you could set that you want a date format, you want it to be display only, those kinds of things. And that will apply across all tables, unless that table has a specific override on it. But I find attribute defaults to be at least as helpful as user interface defaults.
Absolutely. So, and you could also supply the help text here. And I'm also remembering, and I know we're violating the 5-minute rule here, but I called out the form settings, but any settings you define for your table dictionary can also apply to reports.
Great. And so I'm going to call it, say we maybe got through it all the way. I'm going to give it a rating. And
yes, please.
My rating on this is going to be an underripe avocado. Love avocados, but I think we could have used a little bit more time on this one. So it is lunchtime, hence my food rating.
Yes, we barely squeaked that one in under the wire.
But I do want to thank the folks that committed to just the 5 minutes and let you know we're going to stick around for a few minutes longer. We'll have a wisdom of the week and answer some questions. But if you've only checked in for 5 minutes, thanks very much. Appreciate it. Both of you, I hope you liked it. Subscribe, all of those things, click and everything. Tweet about it, whatever you have. And Hayden, this week's Wisdom of the Week is the Programmer's Credo. Many people may have seen the Programmer's Credo, but it is, we write this code not because it is easy, but because we thought it would be easy. And it's not perfect for today's tip, but not bad, because I often find somebody will ask me, hey, can you build a quick form or report or form and report on something, and you think it's going to be just a few minutes, and then they come back and say, oh, really this active YN should have a different name, and it should be a switch, and oh, I'd like help against these things. And if those things were already set up, in fact, it would have been really easy.
Yes, I would never agree to do anything unless I thought it would be easy. So that fits me.
Excellent. Well, for those of you that have agreed to waste more than just 5 minutes listening to us, I see a question here. Can I create defaults on a view? Hayden?
That's the question, Michelle. Yes, you can. And an excellent way of documenting the nature of your view, besides just facilitating creating reports and forms on it.
Yeah, and actually, I have found that I do really frequently create views these days when I'm using an Apex app, partly because the wizards become so effective for reports and even forms sometimes when it's against a view, especially an updatable view. So I see 20 mins, Anton. Oh, right. That's when anybody, Neelish's comment is that anytime somebody asks me how long it will take to do something, my answer is 20 minutes.
And I can see that your last name is a reference to Neelish.
Oh, somebody has spelled my name wrong again. It happens all the time. Nobody seems to get the name spelled correctly. Well, I will say, let's give it another 10 or 15 seconds to see if anybody else has questions about user interface defaults.
I'll put you in the hot seat, Anton. When is the last time that you used user interface defaults?
Well, absolutely. On the last project that I was running with the COVID-19 PPE and so forth, I did, in fact, every time I created a view, I created user interface defaults along with that view. Admittedly, that's been a few months, but I haven't been doing Apex apps so much in the last couple of months. I've been doing some more API work, but I would say the last one I did. How about you? What's your last user interface default?
Well, I am using it for a current project. So writing this tip, in fact, inspired me to apply it to my current exercise.
Oh, excellent. So Monty asks, do the view definitions overrate any table-specific definitions?
I wouldn't say so.
Right. No, it's completely separate. So when you create a view, the table user interface defaults on a view, they're stored for the view. So if you use a view in a wizard, it will apply those user interface defaults to the view that you used in the wizard. It does bring up an interesting point, though. User interface defaults happen at design time. They are applied when you use the wizard. If you then go back and change a user interface default, it doesn't change what's on the application. You would have to go change that manually. So if you've decided, if you, heaven forbid, find a typo in the help associated with a column in a view, and then you use the view, and then you fix the typo in the user interface default, you have to go back and fix it where you used it in the application. I think that may actually be the extent of our questions. Looks like folks have once again wasted a perfectly good 11 minutes, just like last week, listening to us. But again, thank you all for joining us, and we hope to see you next week at 12:05. And don't forget to do all those things like subscribe, click, tweet, do a TikTok.
Yes.
See you all later.
Friday.